Okay. So how did we create the sheath?
Cylindrical rods and
Yeah, that's the body. And how do we create this thing, this structure here?
with torus shapes and adding to this.
Ah, okay. And what kind of modifier you used? And how do you create a different copies of the torus sheet torus?
Arrays.
Array. Okay, cool. I didn't hear that. Sorry. Okay, fine. Okay, now we'll go to the next challenge in hand. I mean, what is that? So we have created head, collar, sheath, and now we need a base plate. Okay. So if you look at the base plate here, just like the collar, this is one just a plane, but here they have some kind of a structure going on. Okay. So can we create the structure? Yes. I mean, instead of just creating a base plate just as thing, single thing, we will create that structure. Okay. For that also, what we will do?
Can you please share the screen?
Oh, sorry. Nice. Okay. Can you see now?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, nice. So what I say, so we have already created the collar, we have created the head and the sheath and the body and everything. Now the next order of business is create this base plate. Okay, this one. Now this base plate, if you look at this image, is just a circle, but this image they have little more details in it. Okay, so let's do one thing. Let's create something like this or something with a little more detail. Okay, so how do we do that? What is the first order of business? How does it look like to you? I mean, what is the best starting space place for such kind of a model? Is it a cube? Is it a square? Is it a circle? Is it a cylinder?
Can we extend that seems?
It's look like a hexagon cylinder.
It looks like a hexagon cylinder. Okay, cool. So let's add a cylinder first. Cylinder. To make it hexagonic, I mean, there are so many vertices. So probably we'll keep only 8 vertices. I understand. Okay, fine. It looks like this now. All right. Now, does it have to be this big? I'm going to the front view. It's not how doesn't have to be this big, so I reduce the size. Okay. And this is the base plate is not as big as the head. So we will have to reduce the radius also, like this. Maybe a little more. Okay, this seems fine. I mean, we are just eyeballing it. Okay, I mean, doesn't there is no specific measurements or anything unless you are going for that. If you're going for specific measurements, then please do that. All right. So I'll just increase a little bit over here. Okay, let's see. Let's see how does it look like. This is like coming like this. Then it is an extrusion here. It goes inside, comes out, and then this is wavy pattern. Okay, let's try doing that. First of all, we'll go to edit mode and we'll switch on our X-ray mode and we will start selecting our front face. Or before that, anyway, we know that we are going to need some more loop cuts here. So I'll add a couple of loop cuts, like maybe two, okay, so that we have more geometry to work with. Now select the top face. The problem with X-ray mode is that once the X-ray mode is on now, you will be able to select the faces which is on the back side. Okay. So if you look at here, now I have a face here. I need to select this face. It is very easy to select this face in normal mode. But if you are working on an X-ray mode, it's quite difficult. See, you will always end up selecting the faces on the back. Okay. So in such cases, it's always better to switch off the X-ray mode and select this. Okay. I'm scaling this down, maybe until here. Okay. Now, this one now, I need to create an intuition here, like something I need this to go. I need this to go like this. Sorry. I need to go like this here, like this. Okay. Or maybe like this side. So the thing is that I need to have a small intuition inside this thing here. So what I can do? I can select this loop. If I want to loop the entire loop, select the entire loop, then what should I do? What's a shortcut to do that? I would click Alt and select this. Yes, nice. Okay. Now I can just scale this down. That would work. Okay. But that is not exactly I want. I want to create a face inside and I have to scale down that face. So what I'm going to do is that I'll just bevel this with one subdivision without any subdivision. And now I will not scale that down, extrude that inside. See? So to extrude something inside, what you do is that you click E and click somewhere else and cancel text. So what will happen in that state? What will happen? I'll show you one day. So I have selected all these space. I clicked E. Now it is extruding. I can keep it anywhere I want, but I don't keep it anywhere. I right click to cancel it. So which means that the Blender have created an additional place right above the place. I mean, it's right there. So now I can scale it down so it will go inside like this. Okay, cool, fine. Now, it select. I will again select the entire thing, and just like before, I will go to check the deselect so that I can select only those edges which are like okay, leave that. I'm not doing that now. Instead, I'll select the bottom face and I need to create one additional face inside. How do you do that? If I want to create a face inside this face, what was the code for that?
I
Or insert face. Yes. I select insert face and then I create one inside. Okay. You know why I'm doing this? Because I want to have these protrusions outside, but I don't want only the face coming out. I mean, only the edge coming out. I need some thickness to it. So now I will select this one, this one, this one, and this one. Extrude that down. Okay. Extrude that down. Now, what I want to do is that I want to scale down this. Okay, I want to scale down the size of this so that I will get something like triangle like this. But if I put yes, it will select on it will converge here. I mean, it will try to scale down everything together. I don't want that. So what to do?
again do an insert on the surfaces and
Again,
then
one
maybe
instant. We can do an insert, and then what will happen? Then it will just create one insert there. I mean, it will not create and it will not create exactly what I want it to do to create. Okay, so there is only one way to do it. Do it individually, right? There is no other way. I mean, it kind of breaks there. So you scale this down, scale this down, scale this down, and scale this down. Okay, make sure that everything is almost equal. All right. Now I'm going to introduce you to one of the most important modifier in the entire blender. Okay. Without that modifier, you cannot do anything. Okay? So now since I already told you that if you add more geometry to divide or to something to make it more smoother and more detailed, then it will take a heavy toll on the computer and the computer will crash. Okay. So there is an easy way for that also. There is an easy way for everything in Blender, and there is an easy way for that also. Okay. There is a modifier which will add more geometry to it, and that is called as subdivision surface modifier. Okay. You go to modifiers and add subdivision surface. See what happened now? The entire surface became smoother. Smoother matlab entire became surface became curved as if it have lot more subdivisions. It have only one, so you can increase how many subdivisions you want. Probably you can go up to 6. But when you go up to 6, it will be lot smoother, but it will take a lot of computing power. But this also how it. So 2 is a good number where we can stop and then go to shade smooth. See. So we have actually, if you go to the edit mode, you can still see that it doesn't have any more vertices on it. Vertices are the same as we already had now, but Blender what actually does is taking up all the vertices which is already there and extrapolating it in a way that it creates smooth surface as if it had a lot more surfaces out there. Okay. So it kind of smooths out all the thing that, and then if you don't want to smooth out everything, then what you can actually do is that you can add one edge here in the edge so that it will become more sharper. See, something like this. So the thing is that if you I'll sorry. Now this just look into this color. The substitute modifier is little confusing at times, but this is very helpful. This is one that you will require all the time. Now just see this. Now you have one shape here, one edge here, and another edge here. So what this Blender does is that it creates a curve between these two curves, these two edges. That's what the Blender does. If you don't need this to be this curve, you just need to be slightly curved, then you can add one additional line in between. Okay. And here, this is called as edge loops. Now it's kind of creating curve between these two. So it is not as curved as previous. Get it? Same for this space over here. Insert this. You understand this? So basically, what we have done here is that we have created a high poly, high detailed object from very few amount of subdivisions, very few amount of vertices. Okay, there is a limit to it how much you can do it, but still this is very useful. Okay, this will keep your computer load very less, and still at the same time you will be able to create very high quality things. But this will not work well for our head. Do you know why? Can anybody tell me why it will not work well for the head? let's select the head. I have a mirror modifier already. If I add a subdivision surface modifier, what happens? The head become round. The reason is that Blender is the head is supposed to be sharp, but Blender is trying to make everything round with subdivision surface, so it becomes round there. Yeah, that's why if you need sharp edges, then most probably subdivision surface is not the way. Even if you use subdivision surface, there are other tricks that we have to use to retain the sharp edges. Okay. If you don't need sharp edges, but you need a smooth curve, then you can use subdivision surface. So let us see what will happen if you use subdivision surface on the scholar, because it seems very low poly and low quality. Let's use subdivision surface. See, look at this. It retained some of the things, but it kind of lost all the spikes. What happened to the spikes? Because Blender is trying to make those spikes into round. Let's see what we can do about that. We'll go to edit mode and we see that the spikes is already here. The spikes is already there, but it is trying to make it round. So what I'm going to tell Blender is that direct Blender, put a line over here so that it is not going to be as flat as this. So I'll put a loop curve over here. See, some of we retain some of the space. I'll put an addition another repeat here so that some of the and I'll put additional one here maybe. So that we have retained a few shapes. Okay, that spike is gone. That the entire spikes are the very spiky structure is gone, but still we have something which looks like high quality smooth surface. Before the it was very spiky, and from looking at it, you know that this is a low quality. But if you look at the cube, you know that this is very low quality. But here, if you look at it, it feels that there is weight to it, right? This is what subdivision surface does. We can use subdivision surface to everything. You can go to array also, go to subdivision surface. See, it becomes a lot more smoother than it was previously. Okay. So if you use subdivision surface to everything, it will give you very smooth. So just look at this. I mean, look at the edges. Okay, look at these edges. Now it is smooth circles. If you switch this off, it becomes kind of you can see the steps still, even though it's been shade smooth. You can still see the steps here. There's a step here. There's a step here. There's a step here. Once you switch on the subdivision surface, that steps are gone. Everything is so smooth. Okay, so just think about subdivision surface. Subdivision surface is your friend. Who is your best friend? Your best friend is subdivision surface. Okay. All right. Nice. So where are we now? So we have the head, we have the collar, we have the sheath, we have the base plate. So we'll rename the base plate. Base plate. Any doubts so far? Anyone? Okay. All right. So I assume that nobody understood anything and I'll move forward. Okay. So now, what is the next order of business? Next order of business is the tails. Okay. So the tails are actually originating from the base plate. Okay. And it have it goes here 1, 2, and 3 bends. 1, 2, 3 bends. All right. How exactly we can create this? Any ideas? Ideas. Come on.
Initially, you showed us you make a like say flat surface. I mean a cylinder and remove the
Okay.
base. so that you will find only the lines.
But the problem, you know what? If you have only the lines, then the lines will not be rendered, because a line and a vertex cannot store color data or subject data. You need at least three coordinates to come together and form a plane to be rendered. Okay, if there is no plane, then it cannot be rendered. Nobody will be able to see it when you render it. I mean, now you are just looking at the viewport and seeing it on the back end. Now we still haven't made this a proper bacterial object. We are just putting pieces together, right? So we need at least foresight to do that. But I'll show you another thing, which is note this. As we have been working only with shapes so far. We are working with either a cube, a circle, a torus, and everything. There is one more category of things in Blender which is very useful, and we have to use that, which is called as curves. Okay, curve as such, curve is not going to render. Curve is just a line. Okay, it's not going to render. But you can provide shape to a curve by different techniques. I'll show you one technique, but there are multiple techniques where you can create curves, create a shape to a curve. The curve can be modified in any way we want, and then provide. For example, if you want to create a road viewed from a top angle, then you can create a curved road and then give some width to it. It will become a road, and then you can stick other objects to it. For example, if you create a car, you can stick that car to your curve, and the car will move along with the curve. Okay, curves are very useful in several ways. There are a lot of things that we can do with curve. You'll see if we have time to do any of those. But for now, I'll just show you what are the curves and how to do it. Okay. Since anyway, another thing is that we need to start those from this base plate, right? I'll just increase the size of the base plate a little more so that we have enough space to do that. And we need to start from this base plate. So as I told you before, if I add something here now, where it is going to come, where it is going to spawn. So I'll replace. So these lines, these legs are starting from the base plate. Okay. If I add something now, it's not going to come from the base plate, but it's going to come from this origin point. I mean, this 3D cursor. So what I can do is that I can put this 3D cursor into this space, and then once I add something, it will come exactly from here. So I don't have to move it afterwards. Okay. How do I put 3D cursor to this origin? What was a shortcut for that? We will go to Shift S, and then cursor to selected. So the cursor moved to selected. Now, what I'm going to do is that I again go to click Shift A. So far we are working with the meshes. Now we are going to curve. There are so many different type of curves. You might not have this many different curves in your game. There will be only few, but there are different types of curves. So what I'm going to do is that I'll be taking a path. So look at now. There is one line. Okay. So you will ask me that, okay, if that's the case, then why didn't you just create one vertex like that? But the reason is that for this particular example, probably one vertex will also would do. But for many other cases, the curve have many other applications that a vertex cannot do. We are not actually doing all of that now, but we will see. Okay. Now, how do we want to? Okay, I told you that now this doesn't have any weight or any depth or anything to it. If I render it now, it's not going to show up. Okay, to do that, to give it, see what is changed here. If I select this base plate, these are all these things here. If you go to modifier, you will have a lot of modifiers, and there are a lot of physics and everything and whatnot. I mean, there is a vertex and a lot of things are there. But if you select the curve, we don't have many things. Even if you go to modifier, there's only few modifiers which the curves can work with. Okay. So curves cannot do everything that a mesh does, but curves can be used for a lot of things. But if you look at something, a fine finished Blender file for an animation, you will see a lot of curves in that than meshes. Because curve is that useful and that powerful. I'll show you one thing. I'll select this curve. From these options down, you go here. There is object data properties. Click on that. Okay. So everything will be like this now. Now what we want to add is some geometry to this curve. If the curve doesn't have a geometry now. So I go to geometry, okay, and then there is a bevel. You increase the bevel width. You see, once you increase the bevel width, it will give some geometry to the curve. It's as simple as that. Now, if you go to edit mode for the curve, you can select something and you can move, and it can move a smooth curve. See, this is what important. I mean, if you want to create something like an electric line or something where a line where you hang your clothes or anything, or even a DNA or anything, then a curve is the way to go where you can really create super curves. Okay. Now, I want to do this. I want to kind of move the origin of the entire curve from the middle to this side. I'll tell you why I need that in a second. So to do that, the two-step process. One is I move the cursor to the selected. Cursor comes here. Go back to object, set origin to 3D cursor. Okay. Sorry, object origin, set origin to 3D cursor. Now it's the 3D cursor. See, and I'll put the 3D cursor back in the web. Right. Now, what I want to do is that I'll move this here. I'll move this here. I'll move this here. And now I'll go to the edit mode. Okay. Now, how many sections we had? We had 1, 2, 3. So I'll select this. I'll select this. So as I told you before, we don't have to create exactly that. If you want to create exactly a curve with a point over here, then probably the best way to use is a curve. But what I want to do is here is to tell you or show you that there is another thing called as curve, which we can use to create these kind of things. That's the idea here. Okay, I'm not trying to create exactly this, but yeah, I'm trying to explain to you that there is something called as curve that we can use for all this. Okay, so now you see this. Now it looks like this. The curve is like this. What I want to do is that I want to make this is very straight now. I want to make this little curve like this or here. So for that, you have already seen that when I kind of change this vertices, the curve automatically changes along with that. But there is no vertices between these 2 points. How do I add a vertex here? Anybody? I want to add a vertex in between these 2. Can anybody help me how to do that? If you are going to say Control R, then it will not work because this is not a mesh, this is a curve. So what I want to do is that I need to select these 2 right click and subdivide. Okay, then it kind of adds one in between. Now this I can modify. Right. All right. Okay. Good. Let me see where it is. Okay, this seems okay. This seems fine. Okay, now what we want? Now we want this thing to be curved along this all these places. Okay, how do we do that?
Array we can use.
Array we can use. Okay, I'll show you another example of array with the. Okay, now if I use array modifier, it will create like this. Okay, then if I move, this is on x-axis. If x0 and y1, then it goes on y-axis. If it goes z, and it goes on z-axis. It doesn't do what I want. I want this to curve around it. Okay, it doesn't do what I want. How do we do that? That's another thing. Okay, so we just leave this at y-axis because this is the direction that you are essentially going to move. Okay, now I told you, right? I mean, we can use curves to modify other objects also. Okay, when I told you that we will make a road from the curve and we'll put a car on it and car will move along it, I will show you exactly what I mean. We can create a curve circle here. Oh no, not that. A curve, sorry. A curve circle. Okay, this is a curve circle. Cool. Now you can select our initial legs and along this array you add another modifier called as curve modifier. See, now there are so many curves. We are trying to fit a curve, leg curve, to a circle curve with a curve modifier. If it is already not confusing, I don't know what will make you confused. So and once the curve is done, nothing is happened. Everything is the same. Now what you want to do is that you want to select which curve that you want to use. We have already added this modifier to this curve, and we are telling that please follow this curve. Okay, and deform axis y is set no. Okay, so now we almost got like that. It's kind of circling around the subject, but it is not exactly going where we want. So what we do, we go to the edit mode. Okay, and select everything. Okay. I'm so sorry. So it would have been much better if I kind of did this in another way. One second, I'll show you another way. I mean, sorry. This would work, but it will take some time from my side to kind of understand it. So let's start over. Assume that I haven't said anything. So I'm going to create another curve, another path curve. Okay, I'm going to add a geometry to it, little bit of geometry here. Okay, now I will go to edit mode. So if you want another thing that we can do is that if you really want to change your subject, change your object without changing the object mode, then you can do that in edit mode. I'll show you why. So if you select this curve here or anything in fact, you curve here, you am selecting this along with your center point. You move it, your center point move along with it, right? But if you go to your edit mode and you select everything and you move it and you come back to the object mode, you have only moved your object. Your central point remains the same. This is very useful. Okay. If you are so confused with that two-step process of moving that central point to some other place, you can always move in edit mode. Okay. Then the central point will not move. Right. Okay. So I'll do one thing. I'll just move it till here so that the central point is kind of in the middle. Okay. Cool. That much is fine. Now I'm going to come out of edit mode to object. Now I'll select this. I'll put Control Alt D instead of Shift D. If I click Alt D, what will happen? Somebody can tell me why? If I put Alt D, what will happen?
And it duplicates.
Yeah,
And whatever that we
but
do for the first one, the same thing will happen on all.
yes. So I'm going to make one duplicate, and I will rotate maybe 45 degrees, and I will create another duplicate. I'll rotate that also 45 degrees. I'll create another duplicate. I'm rotating only on Z axis, okay? That I'm using only that that blue circle. I assume that you know that already. 45. Right. This is kind of a hard way or the bad way to do it because you are making a lot of repetitions here. But you can do the same thing with array also, but it requires a lot of setups. For 45. We need one more 45.
Instead, if you make 4 lines on different angles, the longest line or something.
We
Then we
can do
can
that.
bend.
4 lines on different angle. Then we have to bend on two sides, right? I'll show
But
you. I'll show you.
if you do the same thing on one for all the thing, also it will get changed, right? Instead of having
That's true.
7 or 8.
That's true. We can do that. We see assume that if this and this was one long line, then we can essentially reduce the number of the circles there. But the problem is that whatever I do here, I have to do here also.
Okay.
Or else, better way, I can create only half of this, okay, and then add an array modifier here. Not array and mirror modifier exactly here. It will duplicate the thing over here. That's also possible. There are several ways to do the same thing, but I'm just showing one way. That's all. Now, what we can do here to clean this up in the thing is that you select all the paths, okay, and you click M. If you click M in the layout, it will ask you, do you want to create a collection? Yes, add a new collection and name the collection as tail. And now everything is inside the tail. Okay. So if you switch off the collection, everything is gone. Switch on the collection, everything. It's like group in Photoshop. Okay. Now you go to any one of this thing, go to edit mode. Okay. And now, when you edit it, you see that everything is edited along with it. This is especially useful only if you want to have symmetry. If you don't want symmetry, then there's no point in doing this. Just like previously, I'm going to add a subdivision surface here. So I subdivide this thing into two and create one more. And I can. Okay, all right. Now you have lens. Okay. So we can do another thing is that we can select the last vertex. Now it's if you look at that, it's coming as a single line. I mean, it will be better if it is pointed here. So you can kind of press Alt yes to scale this down to 0. See now everything is okay. Now actually it is not coming from the thing. So you select everything, move this slightly down so that it comes from the base plate. Okay, now it's coming from the base plate. What we have here? We have a bacterial gauge. So if you want to increase the size of one of these things, probably it will result in increasing size of all of that. I'm sure that this might have gone over your head, the use of curves, but this is very interesting and useful. So if I move in object mode, right? If I move these things in object mode, this will not carry forward. The movement will not carry forward. It will not. Others will not move. But if I go to edit mode and move this to sides like this, everything else will move. So whatever movement that you have to do, which you need to be like you need to carry forward to other instances, other subjects, then you need to go into edit mode and move it. If you are duplicated that thing using Alt D. Okay. All right. We have a pretty decent bacteria page, I would say. What do you guys think? All right. Have you done everything? Done. Okay. So let's do something. I mean, let us not stop here. Let us add a little more decorations to. Okay. We're going to add a little more decorations. For that, first of all, let's go to our head. We will start with the head. In this head, now we have all the shapes and everything. What I want is that I want these lines to be thicker and it should like railings on a staircase or something. And it's like it should come out. It should project out. How should I do that? Okay, I should make essentially some lines over this so that I can give it a different color or something so that it will look different. It's not just it's like a frame of this head. Okay, to do that, and what I'm going to do is that I'm going to Shift D and duplicate this. Okay, and Shift D and duplicate this. I'm going to name this head frame. Okay. And now I'm going to add another modifier here called as wireframe. See, once you have wireframe modifier, and you can increase the thickness of the wireframe if you want. Okay. You have a cage around it. Okay. But the problem is that I don't need this one right here. I don't need this one. What can I do? I can always go to the edit mode, select this edge, delete only edges. Okay. And now we'll come back to object mode. Sorry, I mean, okay. I can delete. Instead of deleting edges, I will dissolve edges. Let's see what will happen. No, nothing happened. Okay. So yeah, it gives me hard time. Okay, fine. What we can do? Simple. Now there is a concept called as applying the modifier. Now, as I told you before, if you look at here, this part is imaginary. Okay, this part is really there because of the mirror modifier. This part is imaginary, right? So what I'm going to do is that there is a small drop down near all these things. Click on that. Okay. Essentially, we need to in object mode to do that. In object mode, I'll switch off this wireframe for now. I'm switched off the wireframe. Then click on this and click apply, which means that now that modifier is gone. Modifier is not there, which means that whatever effect that modifier was making, we have made that to real. So now if you go to edit mode, now you see that you have vertices on the top and the bottom. Okay. So now if you select this, delete and edges, now you can delete it. Okay. Now if I switch on wireframe in object mode, it is not working. Okay, so instead of deleting it, let me try dissolving it. If I want wireframe should work. Yeah, now it should work. So the difference between deleting and dissolving is that delete will delete entirely, dissolve will only take away what we have selected. That's little complicated to tell you how exactly it is, but consider that if you want to keep the connections and dissolve, remove only one line or a face, you use dissolve. Okay, which doesn't mess with entire thing. So now what we have a cage for our head, but I'm still not satisfied. The cage is too sharp. Okay, how do you make it round? Can anybody tell me? I want to make this sharp edges round.
Subdivision surface.
Okay, subdivision surface is one way to go, but the problem with subdivision surface is that, see, it kind of curves everything all the ways. I don't want to do that. It curves this angle. It curves this angle. What I want to do is that I want to
Smooth.
curve this angle only.
Smooth.
Shade smooth.
Shade.
Shade smooth will not change anything. It will give you an appearance of a shade surface, but still it is thing only. There is no curve. As I told you before, it will give you an appearance of a curve, but it is not actually curving anything. So, if it was a proper shape, then I could have used bevel, right? To make it curve like that we did yesterday and today. I could have made bevel. But the problem is that if I go to edit mode, I don't see anything. There is nothing to be beveled. I mean, I don't see that thing because that cage is not original. That is not real. That is something created by this modifier. So for such instances, there is a bevel modifier. You add that and it will create a modifier which does exactly what bevel does. Get it? So now this has become more rounded. See, before it was like this, now it is like this. It was like this, now it is like this. Okay. Now let me try to increase the amount. So once you add the bevel, now let's see what will happen if we add a subdivision surface. See, now it becomes perfect round. Okay. Why this is happening? Because this is the order of operation. Okay. If you look at this, there was a phase, and first we applied wireframe to that. We beveled that wireframe. Once we bevel that wireframe, we have added a lot more like vertices inside that. Even though it is not real, we have added a lot more vertices inside that. And from there, we kind of from there, and after that we have added a subdivision. So it's not curving these areas because there is no lot more geometry here. So if I change the order of these things like this, everything will change. If I change the order again like this, then again everything will change. So order is very important. You first start with wireframe, then bevel, then subdivide. Okay. If I change the order, then it will not go. It always reads from the top, bottom. Yes, okay. And when you are applying this particular source, you have to apply on the that's something different. Okay, cool. Now you have a thing with the cage around it. Do you guys understand what I have done now? Can anyone recap to me what I have done now?
We try to bold the edges.
Start from the beginning. Start from where I have put the cage. Why is the cage there, and how did you put the cage? Yes,
We have taken the cylinder,
okay.
and then we modify into 6 wedges.
By doing what?
While we add the cylinder, we use the number of vertex into 6.
Don't go that also. I mean, just let me know how exactly I created this head frame.
Okay.
Only that. I duplicated the head, and after that, what happened? I duplicated the head, and
Add modifiers for wireframe.
we use the mirror.
We had a mirror, and we applied that mirror.
We applied the face scale down into single point.
No, I didn't do that here.
When we use this.
What I'm asking is that I kind of okay. I'll do one thing. I'll start little better. Duplicate, modified. I mean, there is a mirror modifier. There is only real instances on the top. There is nothing real in the bottom. It's just creating an illusion. So what I'm going to do, I go back to object mode. I will apply this. Okay, I'll apply this. Again, come back to edit mode. Now I see that everything is on order. I have a lot of geometry on the board, top and bottom. I select the middle one, dissolve this edge so that I have a continuous edge from the top to bottom here, like that. Okay, there is no vertices in between. It is continuous from top to bottom. Now I go back to object mode again, add a wireframe modifier. So wireframe modifier will give me a hard edged cage around this. I can increase the thickness like this. Need that to be curved and smooth. So what I add? I add a bevel modifier. This will give me something like this. This is not bad, but there are no tenors geometry because if you can see the phases, one phase, second phase, essay. So now after this, I add a subdivision surface modifier. In the bevel itself, probably I'll add one more set. Okay. And in subdivision modifier, which will give me like in edit mode using bevel tools and everything, you can use. It's all up to you to understand it and where to use it and what to use at what point of time, and then make it, then use it accordingly. All right. Then again, another thing I told you, right? When you stack modifier on each other, the order matters. It will read the first one, then it will read the second, and then it will read the third essay. Okay, continuously. Got it? I don't suppose that you might have get it, but I am assuming that you have taken notes and you might have to look at the recordings later on. This is a continuous process that you are not going to learn anything fantastic in the first day, but you will learn if you keep at it and keep going. Okay? All right. Now I will show you another trick, completely different new trick to make it even little more better. This is fine. This is really good, but we can still make it little more better by adding a little more effort. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is that just bear with me for some time. Okay, I'll explain it properly. What is it? What I'm doing, but just think about it now. I'm going to okay. I'll rename this head frame. I'm going to kind of switch off this frame for some time so that we can clearly see the head. Okay, I'll go to edit mode. I see that or else let's do one thing. Let's not go there. I mean, let's click on the head frame itself. Okay, and go to edit mode and see that there are as many things are there. Okay, fine. Let's leave it. What I want to do now is that I want to have a circle or a sphere on each of these vertices. Okay, here, 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 and everywhere. I need to have a circle here or a sphere here. Okay, so that it will give you a little more attractive thing. Okay, so how we are going to do that? That's a question. There is a concept in Blender called as particles. Okay, so particle is an old way of doing things, but it is really efficient way of doing it. Particle means you can put one object over another and copy it for a long time. For example, if I want to create a field of grass, assume that there are a lot of plants in a grass. Either I can create individual plants separately, or I can create one plant and then make a very big plane and then add this plant directly onto that surface and duplicate it number of times. It's just like array modifier, but it is instead of just applying directly into empty space, we are applying it on a subject. Okay, I'll show you how exactly is that. For that, okay, I'll create a ecosphere. Ecosphere, that's good. Okay, fine. Good subject. I'll just move this out of the way. I'll just move it. I don't care how big it is, how small it is. I just move it. I keep it. I don't need to even look at it now. It's just there. Now I select this frame. Okay. I'll add. If you click here, this is called as particle properties. Just below the modifier, there is something called as particle properties. Particle. you click on this plus icon, it will create a new particle system. There are two kinds of particle system. One is an emitter particle system, which is really useful if you want to create a waterfalls or something where you have to continuously emit one object from another. You can do that. Or a hair particle system where you keep things on top of each other. So look at this. Once you click on this, you see a lot of hairs on each of these vertices. Okay. Now, next thing what you want to do is that go to source. Click on use modifier stack. Okay. Now, if you look at it, everything gone haywire. It's all over the place. Okay. And it actually asks me where exactly I want this image, these individual lines should be coming from. Instead of faces, I tell them I need to emit them vertices. You don't see much changes here, but that's fine. Go back to the modifier properties. Now, if you look at it, there is one additional modifier added. We haven't added it. When we create a particle system, it will automatically add a modifier. Now you can change it. Now you can actually bring it here before bevel, because bevel is adding geometry, right? Subdivision is adding too many geometry. So if we keep the particle system down here, what will happen is that particle system will consider all this geometry. I don't want them to consider all this geometry. I just want to be here soon after the wireframe. So if you keep it before wireframe also, it should work. See, now we have only one line from the from individual vertices. Okay, we have only one line coming from individual vertices. Now this is line. Now you go back to the particle system. Scroll down, come to render. Now it's asking us, how do you want to render it? Do you want to render it as a path? Path means just the lines, which will not be visible at the end, unless you give a proper material as a different thing. What I'm going to tell them is, I want to render it as an object. Okay, fine, agree, but nothing changed. It's just that the lines went away. It's asked the very next line, it is asking me what object do you want me to render that as? It's asking me what is that instance of it. So I click on this eyedropper, come here, select this icosphere. See, now you have one icosphere on individual vertices. Right. Now, it's asking me what should be the scale. I mean, I told you that I don't mind about the scale of this one. That's because I can always change the scale in the this thing. So if it is 0.05, if I make it 0.02, it's become little smaller. I think this looks better. Now, I can actually use this to tell you how exactly modifier works. First, we created one particle system into this mesh and added that sphere into the individual vertices of that mesh. Okay. And then we created wireframe out of it. Then we created bevel. Then we created subdivision. If we move this particle system down here, see, it will add one sphere each to all the new geometry that these two things have been created. Even though we are not seeing that there, these modifiers are creating geometry. They are creating vertices. So if you add the particle system after that, it will add one circle to all that. We don't need that. We need here like this, right? Okay. So I think that we have made our thing a little better. Do you guys have any doubts on this? I'm sure that you might have a lot, but still, if you have anything to to ask me right now, you can. Do you have any doubts?
Can you explain the path alone? Path and
Which one?
the path.
Okay. So consider this. Okay. Now when we I'll create a plane. Move that. Sorry. I'll move that plane here. Okay. I'll move that plane here. Now this plane, how many vertices this plane have?
Four.
Can anybody tell me how many vertices this plane have?
Four.
It have 4 vertices. Okay. All right. Now what I'm going to do is that I am going to add a particle system to this thing. Okay. Particle system to this plane. And I'll click here. Okay. I'll click here. So you can see that a lot of hairs are emitting from this. Okay. A lot of hairs are emitting from this. That because it's asking us where exactly you want to have this hairs emitting. It says emit it from the face. So it is emitting it from the face and it is emitting 1,000 hairs. There is 1,000 hairs here. If you want to make change number to 10, we can have only 10. But that is not what we want. We want to emit from the vertices. Move to vertice. Now how many hairs you have?
4 typically.
Doesn't matter whatever number that you have here, you have only 4 hairs. Okay. This 4 hairs is not real. You are not going to see it when you render it. You have to, this is just a placeholder for another object. Okay. So that's why he is asking us, do you want to render it as path? He is asking us, do you want to just keep it like this? Okay. If you just path, it will just keep it like this. It's not going to be rendered. If I change this to object, okay, and I select an object here, I selected the head frame. I can select any object from this thing. Okay. If I select the object here, then actually I can actually add that object instead of the hair, instead of that path. So consider like this. Path is a placeholder. Okay. And the object that you add will replace the path, and then you will for example, if you add collar, you will come collar, and or maybe if you want body. So yeah, once the object that you add will replace that path in that. Okay. And from there you can always change the rotation. Okay. Copy it. Scale, randomness, object rotation. And we can always change the rotation and scale of those things, so that you can. So if I kind of change this to from vertices to faces, see everything is there on the faces now. So everywhere where that it had that line before, now it's been replaced by the cylinder. Okay. If I move to vertices, it's only 4. If I move to faces, it's there. So everything which that with whatever you want to. So if I do any edit to the original cylinder, it will reflect here also. You understand that?
Yeah.
So far. This to icosahedral. So you can do that also. And you can reduce the size. See? So you are actually distributing one object over another object randomly or evenly, whatever, however you want. If you want to like make it even, you can make it even. Okay. Yeah. If you want to make it random, you can make it random.
Can we change this random order also? Is it possible?
Anyway, okay, so this is what it is. So for example, I'll show you another thing. We can use the random order to a normal random. So the thing is that if you look at this, as I told you already, it have only 4 vertices. Okay, I select everything, right click, subdivide. Now it creates another 4. Subdivide again, I create another 4. Subdivide again, I create another 4. So now we have this many vertices. Okay, I have added vertices by subdividing it. Now you go back to object mode, see. Now it have placed one circle on each of the vertices. Now it becomes little more ordered. So just like that, you can add as many number of vertices you need. It will give a even distribution of these things. For example, you go and subdivide and make it 5, and very small subdivisions like this. Go back to object mode. See, it gives you. Maybe I have to reduce the size cell. And then increase the number. It gives you all even numbers. Okay. You can do this, or you can always go to faces and make it random, completely random. Or you can have it even. Yeah. So this has the usefulness of vertices and the particle systems. So it's very useful if you want to distribute similar subject to a lot of places like onto that, then it's really useful. Actually, you can distribute more than one subject, one object at the same time. If you have one cube, for example, I'll add another cube, for example, first. Get a mesh and a cube. I don't know where that's going to create it, but it's fine. So I'll keep the cyclosolvent and cube inside one collection called particles. Primary, I mean, it doesn't matter what the name is. Now we go back to the phase, and here when I say that render as an object, instead of that, I am telling is to render as a collection. And then it is asked which collection you want to render. I say render particles. Okay. And